So we have a really interesting pair of speakers tonight, and that's really the meat of the evening. Linda and Bruce are going to be talking to us about care management dilemmas in supporting families. And I'm going to leave their bios there for a minute so you can peruse them. But the bottom line is, these are two extremely experienced people that know a lot about care managing families and older adults, and have their own business and have had for a long time, and so also know about how the whole business of things to do with this stuff works. And one of our themes in this group is that, we'd all like to be solving problems, but we think the right place to start is by understanding the problems rather than jumping to the solutions. So I think today's talk is probably going to be helping us think about some problems. So without going any further, Linda, I'd like you to come up and the floor's yours.
Okay, great. I do have a handout, and we'll pass it out because I have a couple of case scenarios that I wanted to share with you. But how many of you know what a professional geriatric care manager is? About not quite a quarter. So I'm going to have to tell you all what we do. As a professional geriatric care manager, we're kind of like the hub of the wheel for a family. They come to us with any particular problem, and we go over all the elements of that client's life and environment, their health, the legal issues, the social issues, the spiritual issues with the family, and come up with a plan and help them resolve whatever the problem was they came to us with. And the goal is always quality of life. And supporting the values of that client or that family system, not the values of the care manager. I'm a past president of the National Association of Geriatric Care Managers and the Western chapter. I have connections with care managers across the country. So if somebody has a parent someplace and you need somebody, you can send me an email and I'll find you a connection. And on the handout I have is the the national website, where you go in there, you put in a zip code, and you're going to get a list of professionals in the area of that zip code. And then you can just read their background, see how long they've been doing it. I suggest at least 5 years as a care manager before you hire them, if you haven't been given a personal recommendation to somebody particularly. The people who do care management, like myself, I've been in the San Francisco Bay Area I've been doing this since 1984, so for 30 years, and my business for 25, my own business. But the people that do geriatric care management have backgrounds in nursing, social work, psychology, gerontology, some of the other therapies, but they also take a test to certify that they have knowledge in all those different other elements, not just in social work or nursing. So they need to know about the legal tools and the environment and the benefits, and to help people navigate all the systems. And then usually the goal really is, our mom, I would say 9 times out of 10, the question is mom or dad safe enough to stay at home? That's what all you guys are about, most of you. Some provide care after they can't stay at home. But, sometimes home care is very, very expensive if you have to hire 24/7, and an alternative option outside the home has to be sought. That care manager also helps navigate that journey with families and sometimes for families. Care managers do not take referral fees. They work only for families. They have a strict code of ethics. There's a lot of kickbacks in the healthcare industry. I just heard yesterday that doctors are taking large cash payments for passing out samples. So, it's... Ask me a question. We could be informal here. Got a question? No? Okay. So it definitely in the home care industry, you probably know that a lot, in assisted living and small residential care, there's a lot of pain for referral. And it's not necessarily the best place for that person. Another place would have been a better option. So definitely safety is the issue. that most of the families come to us with. Sometimes they haven't gotten a correct diagnosis, and again, sharing with us what's going on with their family member. Dementia is big. 50% of those over 85 have an organic dementia. 5.2 million people in the United States currently, and that's going to triple by 2050. What are we going to do with those people? How are we going to keep them safe? Is there a way using technology to, I liked your little diagram there, keep them in the home? Aricept, the drug that they give people with dementia, is kind of does just what you think those support things do. Aricept takes this acetylcholine, which is the neurotransmitter in your brain, and it spreads it throughout the brain so people function better. But as that disease progresses, there's less and less of the acetylcholine. It still goes away, but when they do take it, they function better, and they can stay at home sometimes a little bit longer with some drugs. Doesn't stop the progression. We have a really serious problem, and not everybody can take it. So what I did before coming to speak with all of you is we have a listserv in the National Association, so I told them I was coming to speak with you. What are their wishes? What would they like to see? What's not working in technology? If they can have anything, I'm talking to people who are creative geniuses. That's all of you sitting here tonight. And so they sent me back a couple of emails, and I will put on glasses so I could read it. There was a group of us, after about 2 hours of brainstorming, she met, this care manager is a nurse in Pittsburgh. She met with some people at Carnegie University, and after a couple of hours they came up, they wanted something that could sense falls and then send a message to a balance center in one's brain, or the person somehow to upright themselves or catch their balance before a fall occurred. They're currently testing carpets with sensors and shoes with sensors. I thought that was interesting. One of the first emails that I got back from somebody said that the alert systems for falls are giving false alarms. 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, the family is going and finding that mom didn't fall. She just got up and went to the bathroom, put her fall detector on the floor while she reached for some talcum powder or whatever. So they're not working as well as they would like. And I would say that of all the responses I got, which was about 10 or 15, that's pretty good, fall detection was number one. Good fall detection. Another issue was the cognitively impaired person who is functioning okay with activities of daily living, but needs oversight daily to assure she's safe, the kind that turns away caregivers. You know, that I don't know if anyone's had any parent that you tried to hire a caregiver and I don't need anybody, I'm just fine, I don't know what's wrong with you, I don't need anybody. But the family's then wondering, is mother really safe? Do I want to put nanny cams in? We have a couple of clients in my agency. We do care management, we do home care, and some of our clients' families do have nanny cams watching. And a lot of seniors won't have that. It's an invasion of privacy. The person with dementia probably doesn't know there's a nanny cam there, but cognitively intact seniors don't want to be watched. They don't want sensors in their house to know how many times I went to the refrigerator and got whatever I shouldn't have gotten out of it, or if I went out or didn't out, or maybe I had my boyfriend over at 2 o'clock in the morning. They don't want their families knowing that, so they don't want sensors. So there's a lot of resistance to some of the technologies that's out there. She said, like new tracking devices on cell phones where you can track your teenager, if you could set up a perimeter that would alert you when it went outside it, the ones on the market now are just so ineffective using a GPS system that frequently stop working and needs to be charged every 6 hours. That charging of the device is a big issue. A lot of these detectors work in conjunction with cell phones, so that is another problem. Another idea is something like a dance revolution game that kids play on the Wii and Nintendo, but for older adults, with the idea being it gets them moving and everybody responds to music. She said she's used it with her Alzheimer's clients, and it's amazing how easy they can keep a rhythm. And downside is the music is typically rock and roll or disco, and the mat is too slippery. So there's something there, but it's not really made for older adults. She said that that helps. And my staff in my office, I asked them, their number one request was voice-controlled TV remotes that work. I understand Comcast has something, but it doesn't work very well. Anybody know about that? Anyway, that's what she said. And another person says, what about ways to communicate that are simpler? For instance, a webcam requires a computer. People can do FaceTime with a smartphone for video conversations. But smartphones are not easy for cognitively impaired. This is the issue. People with mild dementia, the cognitively intact folk are much easier to provide any of these technologies with. I'm thinking of something like the Jitterbug. Everybody know about the Jitterbug phone, the little cell phone that's easy to use. Simplified mobile phone that has just a very few of the advanced features, in particular for seeing the person you're talking with or being able to show them that weird spot that's developing on their skin. So something that's kind of back and forth communication. I'm also thinking, and visual, thinking of, on the software side, of HIPAA compliant communication, private blog area with the family. So that health information, so it is private and it needs to be secure. And this person also mentioned, and I'm sure you all know about Lori Orlov and the aginginplace.com blog. If you're interested in this, you definitely want to be on that if you're not. Which is the other one? Again, the emergency response systems, I just talk a little bit about me working with families and technology. The emergency response systems are the one it's easy for me to sell to my clients. Because when their adult children think they need to move, I can usually, if they're mentally competent, get them to use an emergency response system. And there's many of them on the market. Some are better than others. I was just looking at the Lively one. Are you familiar with that one? That actually reminds people of medications. It also has the fall detection. It looks like a watch. So it's easier to sell again. It doesn't look like I need help. So again, as the baby boomers age, things are changing. Language is changing. What people put on themselves is changing. Who's doing the walkers are changing. The baby boomers are going to want something different than their parents did. And that we all need to keep in mind. I don't even like the name of my business is Elder Care. I would never name a business that ever again. I even though elder is supposed to be an esteemed place in society, it isn't. A lot of people don't like it. They don't even like senior citizens. I use now, my language is older adults. But again, that will change again. Baby boomers will probably just want to be called baby boomers. You know what age we are. We're in this big, window of years. So that's kind of the things that geriatric care manager are wishing for. And what we can use more is things that probably are interactive and very easy. And I'm really glad that you're going to look at websites that are easy to use or apps for phones. Because one of the things I was reading, and I think it was on Lori's blog, was a daughter was saying, my mother doesn't have a computer, but she does have a smartphone, and she's having fun using that. She will research things on it. It seems easy, and it's not as intimidating. And now that Apple has one just a little bit bigger, maybe the font can be bigger also and easier to read and not have to put on glasses or struggle in reading it. So things are changing, and we need more of that. We work with Video Care. Are you familiar with Video Care? We worked with them when they first introduced their product, and they offered it to our clients free. We couldn't get anybody to use it. We got one client willing to use it and enjoyed it. Nobody. It was intimidating.
What is it?
You want to explain more
Sure.
how it works?
It's basically, well, it's based on Skype, but they
My husband.
they don't use a regular computer with it because that's just too intimidating for a lot of the older people. So they've come up with a separate monitor that literally has just got a push button on it and comes up, and on it there's a few basic screen buttons. Primary ones being people that they can call directly from there and have conversations with, and there's a little bit of other stuff on there for some music and things like that. But basically, it's a way of simplifying Skype to try to get the older person to actually use it. Some of the families really love it, but as Linda mentioned, we haven't really had any real luck in
It has
getting
some
people.
200 clients, mind you.
And so, and they're local here. I believe they're in Redwood City, and they have this model that they feel is something that's really going to work, but we haven't been able to make it work yet for our clients. So we're still trying to figure out exactly why that is the case. Why doesn't it work? Isn't it simple enough? Do they not really care about it? Why is it? So it's still a big question mark for us, and it's just one of those things that's out there that different tech people will come up and say, this looks like a great idea, and yet it's not working. And why isn't it? We haven't figured that one out yet on this particular one.
You mean it's not being adopted?
Right.
Yeah, it's not being adopted.
It works.
That's different than saying it's not working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not.
From the care management perspective,
Yeah.
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 Because it is the social interaction. It is the interaction with the children or us.
But it's new technology.
It's new technology.
Something I have to learn.
Mhm. And you have to remember, if a client has gotten to us with their family, they have deficits. They aren't part of the general population.
I just want to tell you with regard to
Video care?
Yeah, a few of us, Jim, myself, Richard, and another person, we're pursuing a similar idea and did a lot of interviews. I think we may be able to give you some insight. And technology is part of it, but not all of it. There are cultural issues
Yes.
with video conferencing and scheduling of communications that part of it. So we could have that conversation offline, but we probably give you some insight.
Towing with time. One of the things I think that some of these great ideas are being introduced 5 or 10 years too soon. I think the baby boomers are going to be on it. Their parents are not. And we're talking about 80 plus year olds.
So I actually had an interesting interview with a baby boomer couple.
Okay.
We'll talk about it offline.
Okay, great.
I wouldn't make that assumption.
Okay. We can't make any assumptions about all people
And technology
anyway.
literate.
Yeah, right. And then, yeah, there are those people. Do you want to talk about any other things that we've been introduced to that aren't working?
Well, I mean, I can just talk in general about some things. But, I was interested in
Because I want to get the cases.
Yeah,
but
very quickly. I mean, I was interested in what you were talking about in terms of all these in-home monitoring systems, and some of these systems have been around for a long time, and yet I don't see them really being adopted to any great extent. We have a lady right here who's got one of those systems, and she may be different, but the question is, why aren't they being adopted more? And one of my perceptions is, again, it goes back to the issue of you've got tech people providing some wonderful technology, but it isn't necessarily what the client or the client's family want. And is there really? Do we have that match yet? And I think we're still looking for that match. And I do think at times that the tech people are looking at this really neat solution that technically works, but they're leaving out the human element out of what's going on. And I think that's incredibly important for whatever we're talking about here.
And that's where we get the resistance. Either it could be from the adult child, or it can be from the senior, the older adult themselves. So it is a challenge, but I think it is the future. So I'm really happy to see all of you here thinking about what we can do. I have a couple of cases. I'll go over them briefly, but I just wanted to show you kind of what we work with in the community and what the issues are, and I guess I'm picking your brains. What could you think of doing with technology that would help these clients? Both of them are couples. That's one of the things that's changing in my practice. When I started this work 30 years ago, most of the time I was taking care of a single person and mostly women. Men you guys are living longer. You're doing something right.
Look out.
So there's more of you to grow old and be wise, I guess, and healthy. But now more couples are staying together, and that is a problem in itself because they often are so tight that they won't let anyone else from the outside come in and help. They're securing their independence by sometimes covering up the deficits of one another. The blind wife needs the husband to drive. The demented husband needs the wife to take care of everything in the house, and he still drives, so she needs him to drive, so she can't place him. So we have those kinds of dynamics happening all the time. So I have Mr. and Mrs. Mike in their 90s. They have no children. He has dementia that's mild. She's diabetic and legally blind, and she had her diabetes. She had to test her blood 3 times a day and change the dosage. She's legally blind now, and gave herself her own insulin. She was resistant to all help, but can't see, nor does she have the personality or temperament to care for her husband. She would cause him to have outbursts of anger. Police were involved, had to come at one point and say you must have 24/7 care in this house, or I'm taking him out of the house. So because of the two getting into tangles, they've been married for over 70 years. They have no children. The care manager helps to see they're safe. Medications are taken at the right times, and they get to medical appointments, which are frequent. She had an appointment probably once a week. He had one once a year. She didn't care about sending him to the doctor. And that's the truth.
He didn't actually care about going to the doctor. So
No, I mean, she went to the podiatrist, she went to the ear doctor, the eye doctor, the heart doctor, and he went once a year. And she needed a lot of attention. There's a social component here. She has a caregiver who insists on doing her own cooking, and she's not very clean because she can't see anything. And the food storage, so here's an issue. Old food in refrigerators. She can't see that it's spoiled when she's cooking it, and won't listen to caregivers that tell her that. She has no cognitive impairments. She does use a walker and cooks when she's using the walker. On a gas stove, mind you. She takes her own blood glucose readings, does her own insulin. Care manager made some interventions, such as emergency response system she had and did use when she had a fall. Color coding medications that she could see, and also added a pen syringe so she could dial the number once the caregiver told her what the level should be of the insulin, and she gave herself her own injection. But that dialogue to get her to use that simple technology, a pen with insulin in it, took me, I was the care manager, about 6 months to get her to agree to that. It did keep her at home longer. This lady is now almost 102 years old. Her husband did die at 100, but he made it. So that's one case. The other case is a brand new case for me, but I've known the woman for many years, since my daughter was in high school. A couple in their 80s, wife is legally blind, husband's had a major stroke that left him with the inability to communicate or drive, can't do the activities he used to do in the home before his stroke. He's mobile with a cane. They are both mentally alert, no dementia, both have advanced degrees, they're very smart people. But the stroke has caused some depression in the husband, which is typical. They live in a very hilly neighborhood and have a single level home with a large yard. They do not want to move to a care situation. They value their independence. Safety is an issue with their children, and they are self-aware of their deficits and how their safety is compromised being independent. You know, we have a right to folly. We have a right to live unsafely, but they do want something. They're not sure what they want. Local senior transportation is available, but they feel more isolated now. They're not taking advantage of it. Children live down here, at least an hour away, and they do not have any technology to support their care or safety at this time. So there's two cases to think about. What would you do? What would you create? What would you suggest in the field of technology? I don't want to just lecture to you. I want to answer questions you have. I mean, I've been doing this working with families for a very long time. Comment? Question?
I was going to ask, when you're trying to introduce technology like this, the companies say they don't have any technology to support their care. What makes it hard? Is it hard to introduce technology to them, or why don't they have any
They
accommodation?
They're still good. This is so new. His stroke was about a month ago. So I think it's just knowing that they're going to have to rely on something.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this is a well-educated couple. I think they would be open to using technology. I don't think they're closed to it. So what is it that we could bring in there besides an emergency response system? My recommendation on using emergency response systems, when I have a caregiving couple and I want the well spouse to wear the bracelet, because I had a situation where the well spouse fell and broke her hip. The husband brought her a pillow. He bought her a blanket. He brought her food. We think she was there for 2 weeks before emergency response. And he was so sweet. He tried to take care of her, but he didn't know he should get help for her. So my recommendation, well spouse wears the emergency response system to get help for themselves.
You mentioned a little bit about the fall detection device that did not work yet.
Right.
Was that a fall detection or fall alert? Where
Fall alert.
it's not preventing from fall.
No, preventing the falls.
So, but even thing worked, the fall happened already. Is that what
The
you're
fall happened already. What my colleague on the East Coast was wanting something in the brain that could be alerted that you're falling. I mean, I think that's way far out, but maybe not, because I was talking to Richard earlier, and I think people should have chips.
saying? Yes,
The GPS chip. Go ahead.
This isn't meant to be obnoxious, but a lot of the baby boomers as they get older aren't going to be able to afford, or their families aren't going to be able to afford to have someone do what you do, the services you guys
Right.
provide. I assume. And so I'm wondering if there's a way to make the services that you provide more affordable by using technology somehow.
Yes. But by using sensors or
No. I think a lot of the coordination and the communication is that.
yeah, there are computerized systems that kind of coordinate lots of things, so families can be their own care manager. You're right. I would love to see Medicare pay for at least one consultation with a care manager, and I think that might happen. Doctors have, I don't know when it starts, but doctors are now going to be able to be reimbursed for care coordination. If they would hire somebody like us, hopefully the reimbursement was good, that we could at least get people on the right track, because a physician isn't going to know half of the things that you all know in this room. So anyway, yes, care coordination, care management could cost anywhere from $100 to $200 an hour. And some families only have an hour a month. Some families have 10 hours because they have a behavioral dementia couple, lots of multiple problems, issues to coordinate and advocate for.
So when you offer these services, who's your customer actually? Is it the
The
children?
family, the adult children.
Okay, so they make the decisions, the adult children.
if the parent is cognitively impaired and they legally have the authority to make decisions. If they don't, we send them to an elder by attorney to get a conservatorship if they don't have capacity. And sometimes people have already done their legal planning and they've named their adult children to take over for them, so that's going to differ.
Are there any advocacy groups? I think what you were suggesting is very good if Medicare will
Yeah.
spring for that. Are there any groups that are petitioning for that, or?
Well, we know the physicians are. If the physicians use it wisely, either hire in-house a social worker to be in their office or subcontract with care managers across the country, that would be good. But one of the concepts of the village model, the village is happening, that's a supportive, almost very inexpensive $50 a month, where you get volunteers, it's peer support, peer caring for one another, socialization, plus actually help in the house, transportation, things like that. There's another question.
Comment, Linda. As hospital systems become financially accountable under Medicare
Yeah,
for people being readmitted
right,
often,
Right.
like that, and it costs them more and more money,
right.
people like you are gonna be really good looking to,
We're dancing with two hospitals, yes.
yeah, I would think so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because they're fined quite hefty. It's gonna cost them a lot more than $150. Any question?
Oh, I have a question as well. I'm really curious, people like, really reduce their belongings as they age and get older, and I'm curious if you have thoughts about what is left, what technology is left in the home when people die?
What is left? What technology is
What
left?
do they keep until the end? Until the very end?
Their phone and their television, basically. As people get closer and closer to the end of their life, they're pulling back, not just things, in their socialization and their connections.
That's really.
You touched on a really important issue, I think, which is the adoption and the implementation of these devices, no matter how good they are, sometimes can be really difficult. And you yourself talked about how it took you 6 months to teach this person how to do a very simple thing.
Right.
So to try to address this, I started a little local teen to elder initiative where teens would be recruited to not just one time, but several times meet with an elder and help train them with their medical devices. And I found out after looking around the Bay Area that there's several of these groups and organizations. So I think it's going to take an army and maybe an army of teens doing this as a project that will help them for applications to college. Will bring them together with elders, reduce loneliness, and maybe work. But it's not going to be the only solution, but it's going to be one of these solutions.
Right, and the village model would welcome teen volunteers too.
Yeah.
For any age volunteers, basically. But I think you're right. The affordability of care, our government's not going to be able to support it either. Medi-Cal's not going to be able to house all the people if they run out of money. And that's what I'm hearing also, is people are coming to us now, my dad's 95, he's going to be out of money in 2 months. What do we do?
Yeah.
I was just going to mention that they're forming a village in this area. There's one in Foster City right now, but they're also forming one for Redwood City, Belmont, San Carlos. It's called sequoiavillage.org.
And there's one in Palo Alto, it's at Anita's, 2 in San Francisco. The one I'm on their committee is in La Miranda and the East
One
Bay.
in San Rafael.
San Rafael.
There's one in San Jose.
And San Jose. So it is a concept that's spreading, and I think it is one of those options that's going to, it's helping each other basically stay independent in our own homes. But when you have the element of dementia, they can't sign up for the village.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's so scary.
Do you foresee that with the boomers getting older, having been more politically involved and aware of technology and government abuse, that you're actually going to see more resistance to monitoring as opposed to less as the boomers get older?
Could be. How many of you want a chip to be found? Oh, come there's some, I'm gonna do it my way.
Well, not just that, it's just from a privacy standpoint.
Yes, it is.
Invasion of privacy,
Yes.
or understanding what government monitoring is about. And
Right.
Big
But,
Brother.
but the other element is you have mom or dad who has dementia, they're doing kind of well, they're potentially a wander risk. Since I live and work close to Rossmore, many of people have wandered away and fallen in a ditch and died. It does happen, so what do we do about that? Maybe there's another technology besides being chipped.
I had a couple of things. I was thinking about the first couple. And do you know about, does the couple have any cell phone or smartphone?
Oh, no.
Okay. What is it?
I got them the free phone from the phone company, you know, the one that's hearing enhanced.
Well, the idea I had, maybe maybe they don't use it for anything except for SingFit. Do you know SingFit?
SingFit?
It's an app.
Uh-huh.
SINGFIT.
Okay, for
And
movement.
it plays the songs, and it's great for folks with dementia.
Okay.
And so they sing along and.
Live Inside, has anybody seen that documentary? I just saw it at the conference I was at. What music does for people with dementia is amazing.
And then I have one more idea.
Sure.
And it was, you probably know about this guy who finds like pianists or talents, people who come into the home.
Yes,
Do you know what I'm
yes,
talking about?
yes.
It's a guy. Yeah, young guy. Okay. you
I know him.
Okay, not technology or
Yeah,
anything,
right.
but-
Engage as you age.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you pay like double what you would pay for a caregiver, but it could be a pianist or a ballerina or a cellist that comes in for an hour and just enriches lives.
I'm still bugged by this thing. You had a caretaker in this house where the woman was eating food that could have poisoned her. Where is their legal liability? I mean, what if this woman died from eating? I mean, you
Well,
could have been held
what I
liable.
had to teach my caregiver to do, because the person worked for me, is when the client was sleeping to clean out the refrigerator. And she was really sharp. She knew that there was that casserole she made 3 weeks ago. And this lady loved to cook, and she did have both things. And the caregiver would have to make excuses. I dropped the dish. I spilled the milk.
I ate it all up.
Yeah.
Right.
So I had, we call it
Well,
therapeutic
that's
fiblets.
a hard
Therapeutic. I taught her how to use them. Sorry, I'm taking up way too
No,
much
it's fascinating, but we don't want to take your whole evening. We could ask you questions on that. What if we take 2 more? How about that?
Okay.
Yeah, you mentioned the telephone stays with them. The telephone is a bit of a technology barrier in a lot of ways now. How, can they even make a call to someone that you have to press 2 to, you know, you call a doctor, you can't even just call a doctor. You got to figure out
Well, you
how
can
does
get
that work?
you can get the free phones from the telephone company for various disabilities, and some of them are very simple. So that's what I would.
Yeah, no, but I'm talking about the interaction on the phone.
Once
When you call your
Oh, you mean
kid,
push
they
2?
will pick up the phone.
You mean
when
push
you
2?
call anything today, you